How is it going, everyone? Welcome to my channel, and today we are going to talk about how to depict software requirements in a visual format. Now let me tell you one thing. It is not about whether this talk is going to help you or not. It is all about how much this talk is going to help you. Yes. Let's go ahead and start, and I would like to start with this statement. A picture is worth 1,000 words. These are not my statement, but I know all of us must have heard these lines many a times in our lives, isn't it? And that's the reason when we travel to places, when we attend some ceremonies or functions, we carry a camera in the form of a physical camera or cell phone camera, but we carry a camera to capture those moments because we do not want to write 1,000 words to explain what is going on. We want to explain it with a picture. Think about the last time when you took your selfie. You just clicked your selfie and posted it on Instagram without writing thousands of words because your selfie is self-explanatory. If I'm taking a selfie with Eiffel Tower in the background, people know that I went there for maybe tourism purpose and I'm in Paris. I'm taking pictures with Eiffel Tower in the background. It might be one of my bucket list. So these messages are clear. And one important thing, pictures are language independent. You can show your selfie to anybody in the world, and the person who doesn't know English will not need a translator or interpreter to understand your picture. The language of picture is universal, and it is also being proven scientifically that our brain processes picture much faster than text. The problem is, despite knowing all those things, we are still writing 1,000 words, in fact, more than 1,000 words to depict software requirements. We are still not creating pictures for software requirements. Now, some of you might tell that, you know what, there is UML kind of thing is there, but they are intended to depict the design or working of the system, not the requirements of the system. And that is the distinction I want to make it over here. I'm talking about representing requirements in a pictorial way. Okay. Now, since the onset of agile revolution, there is one way which has become kind of de facto way of writing requirement, and that is called user stories. So let's talk about user stories for a moment. User stories are requirement from the perspective of end user who is gonna use the software that is being created, and it is written in the form of as a I want so that. I do believe that almost all of us might have written user stories in this form at some point of time in last 10-15 years. Okay, so we all are aware of how user stories are written. Now you might be guessing where I am going to, but before I go there, I want to give a disclaimer. I am not here to talk about the shortcomings of user stories. I am not here to tell that user stories are bad or not good. No, none of these things. In fact, user stories were first attempt to streamline the requirement writing, and it became such a successful entity that even after 20 odd years of user stories, people are still using it. So it's a huge success, and if it works, it works. So I'm not here to talk about whether user stories are good or bad. I am here to talk about from a different perspective, like, textual representation versus visual representation. Okay, so with that, let's go to Scrum. Now, by far, Scrum is one of the most widely used methodology in agile world. No matter which framework you are using, at the team level, you may be using Scrum most of the time. Okay, and there are a couple of things in Scrum. They are called product backlog and sprint backlog, which contains the prioritized list of things which needs to be done, and the de facto way of writing those product backlog or sprint backlog items are user stories. Now, let me tell you one thing about Scrum. User stories are not part of Scrum, are not created by Scrum. There is a misconception that, if you talk about Scrum, you need to write product backlog or a sprint backlog in the form of user stories. User stories were created as part of XP, the extreme programming. Okay, it was not the creation of a Scrum. But what had happened that people have used user stories while talking about Scrum so much that most of the people today think that user stories are part of Scrum. They are not. In fact, Scrum doesn't recommend any particular way of writing product backlog or sprint backlog, though even the creators of Scrum talk about user stories, but the framework doesn't say that you have to use user story. Framework just talks about product backlog and sprint backlog. So let's talk about other agile frameworks. People are using different type of agile frameworks, but even if you consider all of those agile frameworks, they might talk about user stories or some other way of writing requirements, but the way you write requirement has nothing to do with your agile framework. So your agile framework will not be impacted by any way if you choose to write requirements in a different way than user stories. Now there are two ways to write the requirement. One is the predominant way called textual representation, and user stories, almost occupies 90+% of that space. There is another way of writing the requirement called visual requirements that is not as predominant as we love it to be. But in this particular talk, we will focus on how to write requirements in the visual way. And that's the reason I'm introducing what I call it as CDP, a model to write requirements in a visual way. Now, what is CDP? CDP is nothing but stands for consume, does, produce. So CDP is consume, does, produce visual model. It is derived from this input process output. Now if you are a computer science student, you must have heard this term IPO, input processing output, in terms of CPU, right? CPU takes something as input, process it, and then produces an output. Similarly, consume, does, produce. Consume takes something, does means it does some work, produce means some output is being produced. So let's talk more about CDP. What is CDP? Now, when you write a software, all softwares are written to do something, right? Even if it is as simple as adding two numbers, it is meant for doing something. It can go from this simplest example to, streaming a movie by providing a URL. So you consume a URL to stream a movie. Okay. So the idea here is that any piece of software you write, they cannot do anything out of thin air. Even for a simpler example like adding two numbers, it needs two numbers to add them to produce an output. Okay, so every piece of software doesn't do anything on its own until it consumes something and it does something on the things which it has consumed, and then it produces the output. Now let me go ahead and tell you how CDP model will look like. You might be thinking that it will again be a complicated visual model, right? No. Here is how it will look like, and I will give you a moment to look into this picture. This is the simplest possible picture one can draw because it has only one square or rectangle with some couple of arrows coming in as consume, what the rectangle does and what it produces. It can consume one or more thing or produce one or more thing. This is how CDP visual requirement model will depict the requirement of a software. Don't worry, we will talk about concrete examples in some time to come. Okay, so this is what you need to draw instead of writing a textual requirement. Okay, so let's see some generic example first, then we will look into some specific examples related to software. The generic example is, let's assume that you need to build your house and you need to write the requirement. Now let's try to write this requirement both in the form of user storage as well as in CDP model. So here is how a text-based user story will look like. As a house owner, I want to build my house. so that I can live in that. Give or take, the user stories will be something similar to this, right? Okay, you may change some words, but effectively this is what you want to communicate with the user stories. And here is how the CDP representation of the same problem will look like. Consume, does, produce. What it consumes: cement, bricks, labor. What it does: construction. What is produced: a house. Okay. So, which looks better out of these two? Even if you change the text which I have written for this user story, still which looks better? The user story or a pictorial model? I will leave the answer to you because I want to explain more about what is the benefit of using this consume does produce model. First of all, you can clearly see what all things will be consumed. You can see that cement will be consumed, bricks will be consumed, labor will be consumed. Okay, labor as labor force will become consumed, and the construction will be done and the house will be produced. Show this picture to anyone in your organization and ask the question, do you understand the requirement? I'm damn sure that almost all of them will say yes, no matter which department they belongs to, which programming language they work on. Okay, everybody will be able to understand this. And Dutch part is very important. This is a rectangular box. This rectangular box can represent a 35,000 feet view or even 1,000 feet view, which means that there can be a hierarchy of requirement, which again we will see derived from the top rectangle, and it can derive multiple requirements which can be written in the same pictorial model, which means you have a tree of requirement for the ultimate goal, and you know where things are happening, what needs to be done for each and every requirement. The idea is that each and everyone from CEO to the new fresher who is joining the company, looking into this, can understand the requirement. And again, what is being produced, that should also be very, very clear. Now, let's talk about what I just told. Generating a smaller requirement from the 35,000 feet view. So, while building a house, let's consider it as a two-step process. First, we need to build walls and ceilings, and then we will have to do painting. And unless the walls and ceilings are being done, you cannot do painting. That's obvious, right? Here is how the CDP visualization, the hierarchical visualization model will look like. Consume will add one more thing: paint, cement, brick plus paint, labor, construction, and it produces the house. But there are two separate derived requirements coming out of this 35,000 feet view. One requirement is building walls and ceiling, the left side, and the other requirement is painting. Building walls and ceiling takes cement, brick, labor. It generates a house which is not painted. The painting work takes the house as an input, the built walls as an input, and paints and labor and generate the whole house. Again, show it to someone and try to ask what this requirement is trying to achieve, what this requirement is trying to do. I'm damn sure that people will be able to understand. Now look at this. Building wall and ceiling requirement can be done by different team. Painting can be done by a totally different team, because things are very, very clear, right? What is being needed to do what you want to do and what it will produce. Okay, take a moment to look into this picture. Now I know this might be the question that will be coming to your mind. Is it worth? Well, I would like to say that it is, but you have to try it once. But if at this point of time, even after looking the example of construction, if you feel that it is not worth it, maybe the next example, the software specific example which I am gonna give right now, may not be very useful to you. But if you have even an iota of feeling that this will work for your requirement, hang on with me. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about a software specific requirement. So the software specific requirement I want to talk about is microservice based. Today, cloud computing is something being used all across, and microservices are one of the way where you can leverage the power of cloud computing. So the requirement is we have to build a microservice, let's call it date time service, which tells the user about the current date and time. One of the simplest possible microservice, and this requirement is written in the text form, not in the user story form. So if we would like to write this requirement in the form of user story, here is how I am going to write it. As a microservice, I want to provide current date and time so that system components can set the correct date and time. Makes sense? Give or take some words here and there, you are also going to write the user story in same way. Here is how CDP model will look like. Consume, touch, produce. What it consume? REST request. What it gives? REST response. REST request asks what is the current date and time. Response gives current date and time. TCP service. XYZ port and TCP reply. TCP service is all about, when you want to check date and time, you need to connect to a server called NTP, Network Time Protocol server. You connect it via TCP and you reply to it via TCP. Okay. So this requirement is very clear that you want to create a date time microservice which can do REST request response and have a service on a particular TCP port, which means that there is an absolutely clear requirement for everyone. Okay, so even if you show it to someone who is not directly involved with the work, knows that you are opening a network connection for TCP for some other server, or you are providing a service in TCP at some particular port, and you are capable of receiving REST requests and you will provide REST responses. How easy is it for anyone who is looking into this to understand what this microservices does? So this makes extremely clear how the datetime microservice shall be contacted, what it consumes, how shall it respond to the request, what it produces, and of course what it does. Okay. Now when the requirement changes, how many times requirement changes? Most of us face that requirement changes quite often, right? That's why agile software development is here. Now when the requirement changes, what we do? Shall we update the user story? Maybe yes. Shall we rewrite the user story? Most often yes. But with the CDP model, if the requirement change, here is what you will do. For example, if we decide to add GraphQL support in the datetime microservice, so it is already supporting REST, we want to support GraphQL, we can just depict it like this. Add one more consume, which is GraphQL request, produce GraphQL reply. As simple as that. So looking at this picture, if you are looking at this picture, you know that datetime microservice support REST as well as GraphQL. Otherwise, you know what? Everyone has to look into the documentation. And if somebody might have looked into the documentation earlier, they are not going to reread the documentation. But if they see this picture, they know that, oh, okay, GraphQL support is also available now. Okay. So specifically, what are we doing over here? Unlike user stories, we are not writing new requirement or updating existing requirement, but adding additional info to the existing requirement in the CDP model, which correctly depicts what additional things needs to be done. So you know what, if you just mark it by red, if the datetime microservice is already completed by the team, let's say a couple of months back, and if it is coming again to the same team, so from the management perspective, the people who are looking from let's say from 10,000 feet view, they know that there are some additional requirement that the team is implementing. They are not going to look into user stories or text-based requirement to understand what are the additional things you are doing, and there will be lots of questions. But if you show them this picture, they will understand what additional thing you are doing. Okay. Now let's again talk about breaking the same requirement into smaller requirements as we talked about in our construction case. Now, to know current date and time, the microservice needs to connect to an NTP, Network Time Protocol server, and here is how CDP requirement model for the same shall look like. So consume is the API call, does is NTP connect and fetch, what it produce, date time. Okay, so our microservice, date time microservice, this is a sub of that, derived from that, and a specific requirement called NTP connect and fetch, which is triggered by an API call and which is having a server info and connect to that particular server on the network and returns date and time. So this is a sub part of the overall microservice requirement. Now, one of the major USP of CDP, and that is the precise reason why I have talked about this NTP connect and fetch, the sub part of that microservice requirement. Definition of done. Yes, with this you can actually represent definition of done, if not to the all aspect, but at least from the aspects of looking into what is the functionality you are expecting in that particular requirement. Now let's go back and talk about the same NTP connect and fetch. It has three things. Consume is API call, network plus server info, produce is date and time. Now let's talk about network plus server info. What happens is that by the time you are developing this requirement, network server info is not available. There can be multitude of reasons for the same. You have to connect to an NTP server, you are not able to decide which NTP server to connect, or there might be some legal requirement between countries, or you are negotiating a contract with a company which is already having a NTP server. There are various reasons for which you are not able to do it. But it is also not prudent not to do anything till all those things have been finalized, right? We always do these kind of things, right? Even if some things are not available, we used to write code so that other things about which we know are available. So in this case, what teams decides is that they will use a local NTP server or mock it out or stub it out, which allowed him to complete the complex functionality of this particular requirement, the NTP connect and fetch. But they will have to come back later when the actual NTP server is available. So what they will do is that they will say that okay, the network plus server info is local, mock or stub, and when the requirement remains in this way, even if in the completed state, whosoever sees that requirement, they know that this requirement is completed by using a local mock or stub network server info. Correct? Since we do not have NTP information as of now, so this is my definition of done. This requirement is treated as complete, stays in the place where it is completed. Okay, it may come into the product backlog at later point of time, but at that point of time we know what we have to do. And even if it is completed, anybody from the 35,000 feet view to the even 100 feet view, people know that the requirement complete means we will have to get this network plus server info done, which means that we can actually see how the requirement changes over the time. In this particular case, as of now, we have completed this requirement by mocking or having a local NTP server. Over a period of time, when the requirement comes again and evolve, we remove that local mock or stub part, which means that we can also see evolution of requirements with CDP model. Whenever you write a text-based requirement, these two things are very difficult. Creating a hierarchy of requirement where each requirement can be mapped to the top level requirement, people do this manually all the time and it's purely confusing. Second thing is that requirements evolve over a period of time. For example, you decide to start with REST API, then you want to add GraphQL, and then you have a local stub or mock network plus server, and then you have non-mocked or real-time network or server info usable in the particular requirement. Okay, so all these evolutions you can see, not only you, everyone involved, whether directly or indirectly, can see how the requirement looks like and how it is evolving. Okay, So compare this with lots of text-based user stories and I'll request you to decide accordingly. Okay. So thank you guys. This is what I had for my talk. Thanks a lot. Thank you for watching. Good day.